course you know they call me Napalm, and this is episode 103 of This Week in Grip. Today I'm joined by Alan Heineck, Esquire, once again. James is at a continuing education opportunity that he could not miss, so he will not be joining us. But we are going to be talking with Don Cummings, who hosted the Michigan Steel Bending and Braking Championship way back on May 4th and has also been busy doing plenty of other things, including a giant red nail bending slaughter yesterday. We're going to be talking about all of that. Before we jump into that, I want to remind everybody, go ahead and give this video a like, brother. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. And, of course, leave a comment below about whatever you think about today's topic, or if we end up going into detail on something and we want your feedback, then go ahead and go down and fill out a comment about that stuff. Maybe a question will come up. Maybe we'll get talking about something specific, and we want to hear more from you. And by all means, brothers and sisters, share this video on forums, on Facebook, and anywhere you'd like to across your favorite social media platforms, because as you know, the first rule of grip sport is you tell everyone about grip sport. Don, thank you for joining us today, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. And Alan, how's everything with you, brother?
Oh, good. I've been real busy lately. Got a job change coming up, so it's kind of keeping my free time pretty well occupied, but sticking with the training. Had Aaron Corcoran stop by yesterday for about an hour.
Really?
So it was nice visiting with him. He was in the area for his wife's family reunion, so got to pick his brain a little bit, see some of his neat contraptions. So
that's cool.
I tell you, you get just a taste of how smart he is seeing, what he puts out online, but that's nothing compared when you get to have a face-to-face conversation with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aaron has so much knowledge about everything with grip and bending. It's always fun talking with him.
He does, and the thing is, he's such a smart guy, but he can explain complicated things in a way that makes sense. So,
Yeah,
and that is paramount in my opinion. So many people, they just out-talk, you have no idea what's going on, and he just takes it right to your level. And things I'd read before, it's just kind of like you're just reading words. He explains it in like 2 seconds, and it just sheds so much light on everything. So he's incredibly scientific with his approach to training and everything. It's incredible. We're real glad to get to talk to him. No.
So
how about you, Jed?
Yeah. Well, been training hard. Yesterday was a good day. I think I've had a little breakthrough on the shallow hub, or as me and Mike Rinderly call it, the dumb hub. So I'm breaking into like the 60-pound mark. So I'm kind of happy with that. Got a long ways to go to catch Rindo, though. He's in the 70s.
Are you serious?
Yeah, those are big numbers.
Holy crap. That's,
yeah.
I ain't doing shit on that thing. I can't grab it the way I see a lot of people grabbing it. I have to do it just like anything else, otherwise it feels weird. And you reach down and grab it with that kind of funky grip, and you feel like you're going to lift a ton, and then it doesn't do anything. It's so deceptive. Right. I have to do it the normal way. So I'm going to just stick with what I was doing and just take a low number, I guess.
Well, I see that there are some people that are not doing the doorknob technique, and they're just doing the regular claw grip technique. I saw Gil posted about that. I saw the big number that Tanner, he could be doing more, but the number that I saw Tanner put out was 70-something, and he did the regular claw style.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's a lot of finger strength.
On the shallow hub.
On the shallow hub, dude.
Oh, that is just crazy. Wow. I wonder what he could pull straight up on like a Iron Mine hub or something.
Yeah.
What's he waiting for?
He also just posted nearly credit card closing a 3.5 yesterday as well.
Ah.
Yeah, he was so close to it. He's going to get that soon.
So yeah. What else? Well, before we get into talking specifically about your topics, Don, wanted to bring something up. Just before we got on the phone, Alan, you had said that you were trying to catch up on sleep, correct?
Yes.
All right. So, do you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast at all?
Once in a while, actually. I don't even know why. It kind of pops up on my YouTube feed.
Yeah.
And I tune in because he has some lengthy podcasts, and I more or less catch some clippings here and there. They kind of bust them up. And he's got some good stuff once in a while. Yeah. Oh.
Well, one of the ones that I just listened to was entirely about sleep quality. Sleep, the brain, nightmares, all those related topics. And you might want to, if you're looking for something to listen to, you might want to check it out. It's I'm going through my YouTube history to find it, dude. And when I find it, I'll let you know. But if you like, search for it. Here it is. It's number 1109. Matthew Walker. It's just under 2 hours long, and it's. I think if I remember correctly, it starts out talking about nightmares and dreams and stuff like that, like funky dreams and how come you can remember them, how come you can't. But eventually, they start talking about sleep and sleep quality and getting more sleep. This guy was adamant that everybody needs at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So I know you're not getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, are you?
No, hell no. I'm lucky to get 6 actually, and it's not a continuous thing. It's all busted up, you know.
Right. You and I have talked about that before. I knew.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's terrible. It's like the weekend I finally get a chance to maybe catch up. I don't know. My brain just cranks all the time, thinking about stupid shit, and I just can't sleep at all.
Yeah.
And the weekend, it's kind of like it's like a reconciliation time. It's like I start to get caught up, but and then I just fall into the deficit again during the week. So I've got that on my YouTube. I'm putting that into the watch later thing right now. I got to check that out.
Put it in there, and there may be clips. I try not to listen to the clips. I just whatever comes up, I listen to. But if I do, let me reword that, Alan. That sounded weird. I generally will listen to the clips, and then once I hear the clip and it sounds interesting, then I will go find the full episode. See what I'm saying? So.
Yeah. I've done that kind of thing. Yeah. So once you need the teaser, like the commercial part. Yep.
Yeah. So the clips basically act as a feeder. I think that's why they put them out. You know, part of the reason. So, what about you, Don? I'm curious. Do you average 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night?
Yeah, I do. I think I get probably on average 8 hours a night. Sleep's real important for me. I feel much better if I'm getting 8 hours of sleep per night, and I just function much better. So I always make sure I get, that 8 hour range.
Cool. And what do you do for work, Don?
I'm a lawyer.
You're a lawyer. Okay. I guess I might have known that. Now that you say that, so that's cool. You feel like
that is cool.
And you feel
what
like
kind of lawyer are you?
I do all litigation, all like courtroom, civil litigation stuff.
Okay, cool. All right. I never would have. I'd never heard that before. Ches is the one that mentioned stuff about being in the legal field somehow. But Ches
is a lawyer. There's not too many strongman lawyers out there.
Well, yeah, I definitely never made that connection. So that's cool.
You guys know Vinny, right? Revelese. He's also
he's a lawyer too. That's right. I forgot. He's a criminal lawyer.
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
I'll be damned.
Yeah. Yep. So there's, you know who else was a lawyer? Was Tim Struce. Remember that name, Alan?
Yes. Oh, yep. I never. Wow.
Yeah, dude.
That should be a topic. Like, what's your profession?
Why are all these lawyers so strong?
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, dude. So, like, Don, do you get a lot of, like, My Cousin Vinny jokes?
No, not too many, no.
No? Okay. How many different prescriptions have you gone through? I have that on my DVR, Don, and I probably watch it, like, once a month. So
I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I remember it being funny and a great movie, but I should go back and rewatch it.
Yeah, dude, it's hilarious. It really is. So, Don, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, like I'm always interested in hearing everyone's athletic history before you got into grip and bending. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So growing up, wrestling and football were my two big sports. My dad competed as a power lifter when he was in the Marine Corps, and so I was lifting weights from an early age, and I competed in powerlifting too when I was in high school and early on in college. I went to a Division II college in Missouri, Truman State University, and I played football for the first 2 years there, then stopped playing football just to concentrate on my wrestling. I wrestled for 4 years there, and that's kind of a lot of my early background is with wrestling and football and powerlifting.
So did you say you wrestled at college too?
Yeah, I wrestled in college for all 4 years and at Truman State University.
That's pretty cool, man. Do you have any idea what your record was?
No, I don't. I mean, I didn't have the best record in the world. I was never All-American or anything like that. But I love wrestling. Wrestling's such a great sport. I had a really great coach, David Shooter, who I learned a tremendous amount from, was just a great guy, and really have great memories from wrestling. For sure.
I bet that's a big reason why you're able to push yourself so hard with steel bending too. Just because of, I never wrestled. I was never on the wrestling team. I did it in gym class, but I never did any of the. I played basketball, so and basketball conditioning is nothing compared to wrestling conditioning. So I just know like what some of the kids that I've worked with are willing to do and have done and stuff like that, and it's like, wow, I had it so easy in high school. So that's pretty cool. I don't think I realized that you were a wrestler in your athletic days.
Yeah, there's no doubt I learned a lot about, just pushing yourself and mental toughness from wrestling, especially in college. My coach, man, he's a tough guy. He was on the All-Army wrestling team and was an alternate for the Greco-Roman Olympic wrestling team. Wow. And he was psychotic. The training he put us through was nuts. And, you really learn to push yourself and test your limits.
I bet.
Was that in Michigan that you wrestled?
No, I actually grew up in Missouri. And my school was in northern Missouri, close to the Iowa border.
Okay. Well, they're real serious there in Iowa.
Yeah,
we did
a lot of wrestling in Iowa.
I did some work at a university there in Iowa, and they had a special heating unit for their wrestling room. They kept it nearly 90 degrees in there.
Yeah, keep you sweating.
Yeah, they claimed it was to keep a certain softness of the wrestling mats, which I thought that's bullshit.
Yeah, that's bullshit. That's
that.
So they can lose more weight.
Yes, exactly. But it was literally it was just sweltering in there. It was terrible. I never wanted to be in the building, Yeah. And but okay, cool. It's a neat background.
So, Don, the verdict is kind of 50-50 on this one. I'm going to throw a question at you. Vision Quest, good movie or no?
Oh, I love that movie. I think it's a great movie.
All right, okay.
What are your thoughts on it? Do you like it?
Honestly, I've only ever watched it once in my life, and I only have clips of it in my mind. I need to watch it again. I've been saying that for a while, but like I've always been surprised. Ever since the first person said this, it's always been something that I ask, and I'm surprised at how many wrestlers like think the movie is like weak, like a poor movie. Yeah, so the guy that first downplayed this movie said that movie's gay. I was like, really? So up until then, I'd only talked about it with like 2 or 3 other people, and they were wrestlers, and they loved the movie. And then this guy was a wrestler in high school too. Both his kids were wrestlers. I trained both his kids, and he's like, "Yeah, that movie's gay." I'm like,
that's funny.
Really?
I've never heard anyone say that.
Yeah.
It's kind of your typical like '80s movie, and I love those '80s movies.
Yeah.
And you're kind of growing up, coming of age '80s movie, and plus it's got wrestling in it. I don't know. I think it's a good movie.
Yeah, I gotta watch it again because I remember a few things. I know he's got to cut a bunch of weight, and I know he ends up climbing one of those peg boards, right? There's a peg board in the movie.
Yeah, that's one of his workouts for sure.
Yeah. So I gotta watch that movie. You ever see that movie Vision Quest, Alan?
I've never heard of it. No, I didn't know what it was about until you started saying it was about wrestling. So yeah. It's like a documentary or something? Is that what it is, or what?
No, it's not a documentary. It's a drama. I mean, it could be based on a true story, or it's real. It's reality-based fiction, is what it is. But
okay.
Matthew Modine is the main actor in the movie.
Oh, that's a familiar name.
Yeah. If you watch Stranger Things, he's the guy that the girl calls Papa in the first series, or the first season, I should say. Got to watch that again. I got to put that back on my list, and you need to watch it, Alan, and we'll come back and report for another episode of This Week in Grip.
Sure.
So, Don, we've been meaning to get you on here because on May 4th, way back in May, you held the Michigan Steel Bending and Braking Championship, which is the first steel bending contest that I can recall for at least a few years. So we're glad to have you on, and sorry we couldn't line up to get you on here sooner. Everybody's schedule is so crazy, including your own. But we're glad you're on. What made you decide to put together a steel bending competition?
So there was one the year before, one last year, called the Bay State Bending Bash that was in Boston that Kevin Collin hosted.
Dude, I have absolutely no recollection of that whatsoever.
Really? Okay. Yeah, it was a great competition. So the Beast
in the
East. Yeah, I was there.
Okay,
There was the Beast in the East bending comps, one in 2011, one in 2012.
Yes,
I believe Mike Rinderly and Mike Crowling hosted them.
Yep.
And then there were no in-person steel bending competitions up until the Bay State Bending Bash last year, which was in, I think, April of 2018. And so I went out to that, and it was honestly such a good time. Just a great group of guys together, all pushing each other. And Kevin said he was going to have another one the next year, and I was so excited for it. And I was going to be in and go to it 100%. And then he had a bunch of personal stuff come up and couldn't host the competition. I was kind of bummed about it. And then I started thinking, I'm like, well, heck, if he's not going to do it, I might as well just do one myself. And so I'm like, Let's do it. Let's have one in Michigan next year.
Cool.
And we planned it out, and we had it, and it was really an excellent time.
Don, did you win the one that Kevin put on?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, congratulations on that as well. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how we missed that, Alan. I don't remember anything about that. I don't think we ever would have covered it on an episode. Do you?
I don't remember that at all, but I don't follow bending a whole lot either. I don't really know anything about it, so it wouldn't really been on my radar. But I don't remember seeing it come up either.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. Cool. So, tell us about the events and how you designed this competition, Don, because I can imagine there's a few different ways to go about it, and there's many different types of bending and braking. So how did you lay the competition out?
So my whole goal with the contest was to have a test of basically every type of bending. You couldn't come in being a big double overhand bender and not be good at other types of benders and do well. You really needed to be an all-around type of bender. And so we had 6 different events. The first 3 were unbraced bending. We had double overhand, we had double underhand, and we had reverse.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had a spike bend. Then we had a long bar bend. And then the last event was kind of the signature event of the competition. I think the highlight for everyone. We had a steel bending medley, which was the first time that's ever been done. I was thinking about grip contest, and the medley is normally the most exciting thing. It's fast-paced. You're going from one thing to the next. Everyone's kind of cheering on the guy who's going. And I'm like, why can't we do that for steel bending? And so we did a medley which had wrench bending, and there were 3 different sizes of wrenches, and you got different points for the different sizes. Horseshoe bending, same thing, different sizes, different points. Then there was a braced snap with 2 different options giving you different points. And then there were unbraced small nail snaps that you bent back and forth until they broke. And you could bend up to 4 nails with each being 1 point. And we set it up with a 20-minute time limit, and we did it in 3 heats, with the top third of the competitors going at the same time, then the middle third, then the bottom third. That way it was like a competitive thing, too, with the people you were going against for placings.
Nice.
You were head-to-head going against them at the same time in a timed event to see who was going to win overall.
That's really cool, man. That's a good idea. That's to throw them all in the ring together and battle it out all at the same time. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it was really cool. It really worked out well, and I think everyone had a great time with it. And yeah, it was a highlight for me for sure of all the events.
Cool.
20 minutes of straight bending sounds like a lot.
It was brutal on people. People were exhausted. I finished my bends in 9 minutes, so I finished fairly quick, but everyone else went the full 20 minutes. And
oh my
you
God.
did all
especially
of your
with
bends
the
in
snapping.
9 minutes, Don? 9 freaking minutes?
Yeah, I've got it done pretty well. I was pretty happy with my performance. I thought that was my best
dude.
performance of all the events.
Wow.
But yeah, everyone else went the full 20 minutes. And snapping, I don't know if you've ever snapped steel, but it is honestly one of the most brutal things you can do.
It's
just
terrible,
back and forth,
dude.
back and
Terrible.
forth.
Yeah,
it's like sprinting. You just wind you start breathing like a freight train, wears out your hands, your wrists, your arms, your core. So by the end of that event, everyone was pretty exhausted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine. So the horror story that I have is so there used to be there's a young man in Towanda where I grew up, and he has like a disease or a condition where his immune system's really bad. He's got to constantly have surgeries. It's affected his social life. He can't go and do stuff. He never was able to play sports. So there would be a benefit for him every year, and there would be a 5K, and then I would do a strongman show. And in 2016, it was like the week right before Living Legends that year, I did a show for his benefit. And one of the first feats that I did was breaking a 60-penny Savaco spike.
Okay.
And which is a pretty decent bend. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, dude, I do stuff in my shows and I fail all the time. Like, they tell you don't do anything you're going to fail on. Make sure you can do it. And I would do stuff all the time and end up failing. But I just about failed on this Savaco nail, but I didn't. And at some point during the snap, I damaged something in my right index finger. And I fought with that thing for several months. I don't even know how long anymore. But it was messing with me at Living Legends big time. And I don't think I've broken anything since then. I haven't done any steel snapping just because I wasn't anticipating to have that happen, and I didn't want it to happen again. It really is brutal, just like you said.
Yeah, I recommend it for anyone that just wants to build conditioning. It's kind of like strongman conditioning to me. And it's really gotten big in the last couple of years with David Horn steel shredder competitions. It's kind of brought snapping kind of the forefront, and there's been all sorts of different feats to do. And in the last couple of months, the craziest snaps that have ever been done are being done. People are snapping red nails. David Horn came up with this man killer challenge where you snap a red nail, then a grade 8 bolt, then a grade 5 bolt. And, a couple of people did that. Then I did it while I was lying on my back. I was the first one to do that. And now a couple other guys have done that. The snapping game is really everyone's up in the ante recently.
Wow. That's pretty savage stuff, dude. Doing anything laying on your back is harder.
It's most definitely harder. And then it's like the next evolution. David Horn just snapped a grade 8 bolt in a wrestler's bridge. So that's something I'm probably going to try to train for and do now. But there's just so many different options of... What's that?
You got to do that. You got to do that to the soundtrack from Vision Quest.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll have to put that in. But yeah, the snapping, there's just so many options, and everyone's just pushing it harder and harder, and the limits are getting raised on it. To now, there's lots of people snapping red nails.
That's pretty cool, man. Where are they Where are people documenting and talking about bending and snapping these days? Is it on the grip board, or is it mainly just like on Instagram and people just kind of view what's going on, or is there a forum out there that people are using these days that we're not aware of? Because I know that Bender's Battlefield was around back in the day of the Beast in the East competitions, but then it ended up like disappearing. So is there another one out there these days?
So most of it's on Facebook and most of it's associated with David Horn. And David started a group called Steel Shredder Brotherhood of Steel, where all the stuff's being shared. And then also just through the competitions, like right now, Steel Shredder 5 is going on. For the people that don't know about these Steel Shredder comps, David has the steel, and it's all calibrated steel, and he sends it out to people all over the world. You know, most of the competitions have had about 40 competitors all over the world, and they normally run for a couple months. Mm-hmm. And you videotape everything and, you know, then make the submissions, and, you know, so you're competing against people all over the world, which is really cool. And the current Steel Shredder 5, which is going on, is snapping 3 grade 5 bolts as fast as you can, back to back to back. And so a lot of the snapping stuff's being documented through these competitions too.
Cool. That's good. That's good. What was that Facebook group again, in case anybody wants to go check that out?
I believe it's called Steel Shredder Brotherhood of Steel.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. You were going to say something, Alan? I kind of stomped on you.
No, I guess I've forgotten what I was gonna add. It was a lying on the back thing. I didn't know that was a thing people were. I've never even seen somebody do something like that. I guess it stands to reason it would be more difficult, but I don't know why that's. I've just literally never seen people doing it. You see people doing like things behind their backs and stuff like that, but I've never seen anybody lying down.
Yeah, it's a new thing. David Horn came up with that event, I think, earlier this year was when it came out. And it's just there's no leverage at all. You know, when you're standing and you're snapping, you can really use a lot of body leverage. And when you're lying down, it takes away a lot of the leverage, making it much tougher. It's just, I guess, another way to make what you're doing harder. Sure.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know why I haven't seen that at all. That kind of stuff is literally not posted on the grip board. I mean, that's mostly where I stay up to date on stuff. So I hadn't. Yeah, that's not put out there at all. Does David Horn still have a forum?
I think he does have a forum on his page. I don't know how active it is. I don't think it's something that's used real frequently. I personally, really don't go on there. And the grip board, you don't see a lot of the bending stuff on the grip board anymore for whatever reason. People will post stuff here or there, but it seems like Facebook is where most of the bending stuff gets posted.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
So, Don, tell us a little bit about what went down at the competition, man. Sounds like there were some awesome events. And
yeah, so it's we had a really good show out. We had 10 competitors.
Okay.
We had 5 guys from Michigan, which was cool, getting quite a few Michigan guys out. And then we had people come from pretty far away. We had 2 guys from New York, Anton Torella and Tom Flesher.
Mm-hmm.
We had John Mauser come from West Virginia. I don't know if you've seen him before. He's a great big guy. He's a strong man, a stone lifter, a sumo wrestler, arm wrestler. He does a little bit of everything.
He's like a renaissance man of strength sports.
Yeah, he really is. He came in from West Virginia. Carl Donati, who's a super good steel bender, he got second in the competition. He also got second in the competition in Boston last year. He came. Carl's from Pittsburgh, and he's a super good guy and a super strong guy.
Yeah, I know Carl. He's been to my house once or twice and competed with him at Gripmas a few times as well.
And then Andrew Dube came from Canada. And so it was cool. We had half the guys from Michigan, half the guys from other places. And we just bent steel all day long and then hung out afterwards. I made up a bunch of food. I smoked 4 pork shoulders and made all the fixins, and we had a good time just hanging out afterwards, chilling out and talking.
Yeah, man, can't ask for much better than that. Doing what you love to do, and then some good food at the end. Yeah, man.
Yeah. One thing I thought was really cool, and probably my favorite thing of the competition, was just the atmosphere of everyone encouraging each other. It was a real, it was competitive, obviously, but everyone was trying to help each other out and showing each other different techniques. While people were bending, people were cheering each other on. We had a couple newer guys that, must have learned a lot during the day, and everyone was helping them out. It was a real good just sense of community and camaraderie with everyone helping each other and encouraging each other.
Pretty sweet. What was the general attire that was worn for the competition? I imagine most people didn't show up in mesh shorts for this one, seeing how there was so much bracing going on.
Yeah, I wore jeans. I always wear jeans when I brace bend or snap. And,
right.
I think most people probably had jeans or some sort of, I think Andrew Dube had shorts on, but they were kind of more sturdy type shorts. I don't know if they were cargo shorts.
Like cut-off jean shorts?
They weren't jean.
No,
but they...
no Daisy Duke or anything?
Yeah, no Daisy Duke, so that wasn't allowed. That was against the rules.
Okay.
Most people had some sort of, sturdy type clothes on the bottom. Otherwise, you don't want to be wearing mesh shorts when you're brace bending.
Yeah, dude, their shorts are sliding all over the place, and they offer, no protection, right?
Yeah, the no protection sucks, but the sliding's probably worse, and it's probably a recipe to hurt yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of wraps were used, and, rubber bands, etc.? Maybe run down some of the rule variations for the events.
So double overhand, we used iron mine wraps, 1 minute time limit, bending to within 2 inches. You could use rubber bands. So it's kind of the traditional type, cert type bending, except for you could use rubber bands.
Right.
Double underhand, we used iron mine pads as well, 1 minute time limit, but non-completed bends scored 2.
Okay.
And Carl Donati is such a good double underhand bender. He took first in that event. He took a bastard to, I think, 35 degrees. It was something right around 35 degrees, which is a phenomenal bend, double underhand and single iron mine pads. I did the same bar, but I think mine went 15 degrees or something like that.
Okay.
But I was really impressed with Carl's bend there. That was one of the top bends of the competition to me.
Right. So if what you're saying is if 2 guys attempted the same bar and you guys did not complete them, whoever bent the bar furthest would get some more points.
Correct. For double underhand and reverse, we did it that way.
Gotcha.
With double overhand, you had to complete the bend, and so if 2 people tied the same bar, whoever did it fastest won.
Cool. Very cool. Just curious, for the reverse bending, did you allow the Jedd Johnson thumb grab technique?
That could be used, yes. So we used David Horn's steel and rules for the reverse. So we used bolts from him, grade 5 bolts and grade 8 bolts, and we used David Horn wraps pads touching, which is the most strictest form you can do for reverse, and to me is the best because it's all about a test of wrist strength then.
Right.
And his rule allows the Jedd Johnson thumb pull, which I just love whenever I read that.
I know.
I've never heard of that. What's that?
Well, so when I was writing the nail bending ebook, this is back in 2005. Everything was still very, very new. There weren't rules and competitions and standards like there are today to the degree that Don's talking about right now. So I found that with reverse bending, Alan, back then, the reverse bend was basically done so that you could kink the bar and then transition into double overhand. So you would want to get the kink produced as deeply as possible. You want to get as much of an angle as possible into the bar so that when you transition into double overhand, you'd be able to finish it off a little bit easier. So I found that Are you familiar with reverse technique, Alan? What the positioning looks like?
Is that like if you use David Horn's wrist developer, that's the intended grab on that one? Is that what it is?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, then yes, I am. Yep, okay.
Yep. And of course, with most of the bars you're going to bend, it's only like 6-7 inches long, so your hands are pretty close together. And so I found that I could get a kink going, and then with my back hand, I could reach my fingers over and hook onto my thumb pad and then get a further kink into the bar. So I wrote that I published it in December of 2005, and then I believe it was December of 2007 at Gripmas, there was a reverse bending competition. So it was like right before the medley, I think, or maybe after the medley, I can't remember, but it was for a reverse bending, and I'm doing the thumb grab because that's what I always did. And then it came out later, like the next day on the grip board, that it was cheating, or it was a questionable technique. So people had to stop using it, I guess, or I had to stop using it. But and then eventually at some point David named it the Jedd Johnson thumb grab. I remember seeing that written somewhere. I don't know I don't remember if it was allowed or not allowed, but the thumb grab. I remember that part. So
it's literally in his rules. Like when you go to his page for his rules, it says the Jedd Johnson thumb grab or thumb pull is allowed.
That's awesome. I've
tried it.
What's that?
I have tried it, and I personally don't. It doesn't help me any. Like I have,
right.
I don't get any extra kink with it.
Yeah.
But I know some people, have used it and it's helped them.
You might be so strong with your kink that you're able to reach that point where the bar's so close that if you were pushing any further, you'd be pushing like one of the wraps into the back of your thumb. But back then, my kink was bad. My kink was very weak, and that was what I figured out would help me get a better into the sweep range. So
right,
that could be something too. Well, didn't mean to take over the whole talk with that, but it was one of the questions I wanted to ask. Why don't you hit Don with something, Alan?
So where did the whole breaking thing come from? How did that get to be a thing?
Snapping goes way back. I don't know when snapping started, but the strongmen, in the early 1900s and whatnot, would snap steel. And it's something that then kind of fell to the wayside and really wasn't done that much until I think the first steel shredder competition was January of 2017. That kind of brought snapping back to the forefront. But before that, I don't think people were really snapping that often. Steve McGranahan, he was the first one to ever snap a red nail. He did that, I don't know, sometime in the early 2000s. And when you're looking back through that time period, people would snap things here or there, but it's become much more common nowadays, and people are snapping a lot more.
I can remember when Steve McGranahan snapped that red nail, and people were shocked. It was a very shocking moment.
Yeah, no, it was a monumental feat back then, and it still is to this day. I mean, recently on Facebook they came up with a list of everyone who snapped a red nail, and it was less than 10 people for sure. I want to say it may only be 7 or 8 people who've ever snapped a red nail. And a huge shout out to Elizabeth Horn, who snapped a red nail maybe a week or two ago. As a female, snapping a red nail is just a monumental undertaking. Wow. She's absolutely a beast and so strong and has so much endurance.
Yeah, man.
What are the rules that go along with that? Is it like the tip? I'm not familiar with bending anyway, but I know like when people would go to bend a red nail, they have to have like iron mined wraps and stuff like that. What sort of setup is involved in the bending, or is like anything, the snapping, anything goes, or how does that work?
Yeah, it kind of depends on if it's part of a competition or not. David Horn, one reason I really like David's contest and his events is because they're super strict. Everything he does makes it, as hard as possible, basically. The least amount of padding, pads touching. It's always stuff just to be true tests of strength. And so with snapping with him, you use David Horn suede wraps, which are the thinnest wraps out there. I've never seen wraps really thinner than his wraps. And then, yeah, you can brace with snapping. There is some snapping that's unbraced, but, typically I double overhand small snaps normally to start it, and then I'll close it between my legs, with like a leg crush, and then you open it on the side of your leg, kind of like, the starting point of a horseshoe where you're pulling with one arm and pushing with the other. You open it like that, and close it between your legs again, and it's just all about how much you open it each time and the speed. You just want to go as fast as possible so that bar stays hot and you stay on it until it gets done.
Interesting. So when you're talking about on the side of your leg, is that where like you almost see people holding it more on like near their hip, and they're kind of almost like sort of behind them a little bit? Is that what you're saying when you're trying to bend it back or straighten it out again?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
A lot of times, some people do a little lower on the leg, but I personally am a little higher, like real close to the hip there. I can get more drive with that. I put in basically the same spot I open a horseshoe. And, yeah, you just do that as many times as you can, back and forth until it snaps.
Okay. All right. Is there a typical amount of time that you've snapped a red nail?
Yeah, I have. I think my snap, I may be wrong, but I think maybe about around 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Just the way my mind works, I would think you would get to a point where you're just so whipped that you can't even move the thing anymore.
Oh, you do.
That's just, yeah. Wow.
It is.
Okay.
It's all about your conditioning. I mean, it's just brutal on your conditioning, and your heart rate is just going like crazy, and your heart's pounding out of your chest by the time you're done. The first time I ever snapped a red nail was, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, and it took me 20-some minutes. And, you just get better at it. You get in better shape, you get stronger doing it, and you just get better over time.
Sure. And that's the typical time that's allowed, is that right? Is it a 20-minute time allotment for something like that, or?
The contests that have been done, the steel shredder ones, have all had a 20-minute time limit.
Okay. All right.
So like the current contest going on with the snapping the 3 grade 5 bolts as fast as possible, you have to get it done in 20 minutes. I don't know, have you all guys heard of Reuben Hughes out of Wales?
Yeah, we've covered him.
We've talked about him, yeah.
Yeah, he's an absolute brute, right?
Reuben is next level. He is so strong, and he's not a real big guy. I don't know how much Reuben weighs, but I'm pretty sure he's under 200 pounds. He looks like maybe 180, 190. And the week after my bending competition, there was a steel shredder King Shield. Did you all hear about that event?
Probably, but I don't recall much myself.
No, I don't remember hearing about that.
So it was probably the hardest steel bending competition ever. David Horn picked the 5 people that he considered the best active competing steel benders in the world. It was Reuben, David Wigren, Zsolt Horniak out of Hungary, me, and then Iron Stan from the U.S. And it was 6 events. He sent the steel to everyone, and we all did it on the same day. And Reuben won that competition, and he just did some phenomenal bends. I believe he builds like stone walls for a living in Wales, and he's just lifting stones, busting stones up all day, and he's just so strong. And his snapping and bending right now is just out of this world.
Reuben's bending and snapping are out of this world, and we're going to be talking about a whole bunch more stuff that's out of this world when we wrap up episode 103 of This Week in Grip with Don Cummings later this week. So, right now, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you're notified as soon as part 2 of episode 103 is live. Thanks for listening, and all the best in your training. See ya.